Salles with Matheuz Szczecinski versus Pawel Jaworski. I think this is also at the same Leglock camp in Poland in 2024 that was in the previous video. You can kind of tell from the mats. So you could just get started. I think something to really note is that Matheus is known really well as like a leg locker, but he has some really sick back take counters to leg lock entries, which I think is very legitimate. Mikey Musmeshi talks about this. There's like three boxes that you really want to attack, and it's impossible for a person to defend all three. So as a passer, you should be looking for a pass, a submission, or a back take. And I think the back take is what people are really sleeping on. I think right now everyone knows like the outside ashi, you lift up the hips, you fall down and you wedge. But there are so many more back takes that like gi players will really know. And it's kind of good and refreshing to see it being used inside of no gi now, because it's just like a lot of people will invert, raise their hips, and there's just so many opportunities for dives. It's a whole area that I feel like is really not as popular as it should be, given its the amount of success. So we can watch this. Let me just double check if I'm actually watching the right speed. Yeah. Okay. So here, right, kind of camping style, his head is already way in deep, and you can't really high pummel over a head that's already attached to your body. So, tough position to be in, but Pavel is able to off balance him, scoop up that leg, and pull his weight onto him, right? So this is legit. You could do this. I think that Matheus has just been here 1,000 times and is going to get the belly down kind of heel hook on most players. So you just have to be mindful of that, where your legs are in this kind of like bundle. They reset. And we could just watch what happens. Right? Same kind of guard. Cross step, jamming up into him. Opts for double knees on the ground, which is, I don't think you could really pass on the knees. But also, like, look how sweaty these mats are. And like the slippage is very real. I think sometimes on mats, you don't have a choice but to actually pass on the knees because you're gonna fall, right? Also, it looks like the mats are really loaded, so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Goes for like an overback, right? And fuzzy frame there. And Pavel is trying to get like a false street kind of entry, right? Which I think a lot of people do that, right? Where they're like, I'm gonna throw a leg in because that's how I retain guard, and it works until it doesn't. So I think the key things was actually threatening, right, is this upper body. And there should be frames installed to prevent this upper body from collapsing in and passing you, right? Like, look at his hips relative to yours. It's already like so far flanked. Now, a lot of half guard, half butterfly, leg lock specialists, this is their bread and butter, right? They're here all the time. But personally, I think this is a little bit of a danger, especially with like today's modern passing systems, because like you're going to effectively trade all of your frames to try to go for a false reap, and if they're able to negate it and they go heavy on upper body, their legs are hidden away from you, right? You can't reach them anymore, and their hips go up. Like it's too late, right? He can't recover this leg to like frame on the shoulder and leg press him away at this point, because you've committed all of your frames into an attack by trying to hook into the false reap. So just be mindful when you go for leg entries and you attack. You have to do it off of like a kazushi, right? Because then they're not actively passing you. You should not be like getting smashed and then trying to go for your legs, because people are gonna do this. They're gonna hide their legs from you, and they're gonna smash you with their upper body, right? And like here we're kind of an inverted, maybe like a K guard kind of entry, and that's sick, right? So I think this is common. People will do this kind of guard where their hips rise up off the mats and they think they're safe because everyone just wants to blast forward, and they're like, damn, I can't pass this guard player because their legs are just glued to their face. But the proper answer here should be, look, their back is exposed. You should be attacking their back, right? And unless you're not privy to like crab and bolos and stuff like that, there's no reason why you should not be able to like threaten a leg drag, threaten crabs. Like there's things that you should be doing to capitalize off of this. And everyone does this, right? So many people do this. They'll self stack, and it's like not a good place to be. Also, if you're old, this is bad for your back, dude. Like if this guy's like 50 pounds heavier than you and smashing you, you're gonna get a slip disc here. It's not a good place to be. So just be mindful of your guards, and be nice to your partners, right? If you have like 100 pound discrepancy, don't fucking throw your full body weight on someone. Don't be a dick. You're gonna snap them like a lobster tail. But the main thing I'm trying to say is with this, right? Their legs are so occupied on the head side of their body that you could just cross step into like a leg drag or fall the way that Matheuz does into this shin pin position, right? Like he's going to try to use his right arm to clasp onto the bottom right hip of Pawel and install the shin wedge with his right leg. Ideal situation, you could even stomp with this foot on the back of the hamstrings here, and then install a crab hook with this leg, right? So you're basically shin framing away, stomping to keep that leg far away, to keep them stacked, and then reinstalling your right leg as a crab hook. I don't think he actually gets this here. Kind of just falls out. But you can salvage the position, punch your arm across the waistline, and get like leg drag. Like look, he's basically past the legs, right? And then you can come up. And yeah, tough, right? And obviously he recovers guard. This is a friendly roll. I don't think they're not trying to kill each other. Solid entry, right? Very classic leg lock entry, right into, well, actually right into this calf slicer position, which honestly, I'm not that good at calf slicers. I don't like them. I just feel like there's risks of your own knee exploding if the guy spazzes and doesn't give a fuck about his health. So I know it's kind of coming in right now. I know Mikey is kind of exploring calf slicers, but I don't have Mikey's level of flexibility or skill, so I'm not going to do that. That being said, like if you want to play the bear trap system, it does work. It is legit, but I think you have to be very mindful of where their weight is and how much pressure you're exerting out with your legs, right? Because if you're pushing out with your foot this way, your body's not designed for that. It's all going into your LCL, these ligaments right here, and that's like the most common LCL like ligament in your knee to explode. I know everyone talks about ACLs and heel hooks and shit, but LCLs actually pop. And if you want to be a crazy person, theoretically, you don't really need an LCL. But like it's nice to walk without having your bones like, crush each other, right? Like it'd be nice to walk with your kids and not be limping. But, it's your life decisions how much you want to commit to this hobby. I think it's stupid to just destroy your body for a hobby. So try to find a safe way to play it because, like, dude, I'm not trying to get crippled by an 18-year-old green belt because he wants to make an 80cc run and I can't, like, go to the park with my kids. So I'm not going to play this game. But it is legit. You have to know it exists. And, yeah, you have to be aware of this. So what this person wants on the bottom is to exert force out to fall, like make them fall over, right? Because once this ankle is trapped in this hip line, there's nothing to really post, right? Even if he drives his knee down, he's basically gotten swept. So something to be mindful of. And I think there's going to be a really slick back take. So what is Matheuz doing? He's shifting his weight into his right hip, right? He's moving back. There is probably still some weight here because I know if you limp leg here, your leg just gets trapped and mangled, right? Like there's if this left leg is light, there's nothing stopping the bear trap from stomping on their own ankle here, and then you just get calf slicers in midair, right? So not a fun position. So he's shifting his weight, possibly even driving his knee onto his shoulder, right, to prevent this sweep down this direction. And he's trying to disengage this. So you see him framing down on that leg, and I think as long as he beats this foot, like his body can go over this foot, he's gonna go for a diving wedge back take here. And it's like tough to prevent because look, this is already max length of this frame, right? You can't stop someone from jumping over, so it's a lot of commitment, right? Nice, pops that leg out, right? And look, we're basically in top bolo. This is top bolo, right? So he gets his roll, insert a wedge, and try to go for a wedge back take. Didn't work out, but that's the intent. And then something else to really note, let's rewind that back, right? This shin wedge position, right? This is still shin wedge, right? If you were to bolo and you fail the bolo because they framed the top leg and you decide to invert through all the way and you install the shin wedge, this is the position you're in. This is like Matheus's bread and butter. He will often go into this shin wedge position, which basically threatens crab on the near side. Or if you try to like kick him away, which is what he wants, he's going to snatch this up, switch his legs to this side, and just straight ankle the shit out of you, right? And look, he's already hunting for that straight ankle, right? And, obviously doesn't connect, but the intent is there, right? Again, very Joseph style kind of passing, right? It's like you want to hide your intent to pass. Let's see if we could slow this down. Right? He's just cupping. He's not. This leg doesn't move. He's not pushing and throwing the leg by. Right? He's just holding it so this leg can't track him, and then he's throwing and shuffling his whole body up to the other side. I love this style of passing. It's so good. You hide your intent to pass, and it's like you get tempo on the guy, right? And like, yeah, tough, right? Here, I think framing on the upper body, because you kind of have to, because he's driving his head down, but also you should frame the knee, right? Because that's what's actually flanking you, right? Stuffing the leg down. This is pinning the hip. You have to pin a hip in order to pass, using his head as a wedge. And then as a guard retainer, what you want is to have this leg cross into this hip pocket so you can enter into your K guard, right? Like Lachlan has a whole series on this, on his north-south retention. You effectively almost always just want to shoot a leg across to the opposite side so you can start attacking into K entries. Right here, dicey. Dicey, hips are up, right? A good player is gonna literally huck their body over, install a crab hook, and take your back. Okay, and then sits down, and it's like, it's tough. It's really tough. Right? Crossing his legs, presumably going for some kind of false sweep entry, inverting through some kind of De La Hiva. I think Lachlan might even call it like X legs or something like that. But see this? This is false sweep, right? This is what you want for false sweep, but like this is not what you want when you're retaining guard, right? Because like the separation of this bottom knee from your bottom armpit and your hip, it's open, right? And now someone can install a wedge there and try to like start passing you. And it's like, what frames do you have here, right? His head is like bashing into your hamstring. You kind of have like this dinky little hook on his shoulder, but your bottom leg's out. Like you should feel extremely exposed with all this space that's just open for someone to install a wedge. And look, it's obvious. He's not. I don't think he's intent on framing that well, right? Like this is telling me he's trying to enter the legs, right? This hook here is trying to make connection because that's this is my personal opinion, and I'm sure even some of my coaches might disagree. But I don't think you want connection if someone's blasting through your guard because like you're pulling them into the pass, right? And I understand that there's going to be some very athletic people who are very good at flanking. And canonically what people will tell you is you want connection to slow them down so you can play your guard. But like is this going to help? Like is your hand trapped here going to help prevent the person from like passing because you're like quote unquote threatening an attack? I feel like you will eventually roll with someone who's high level who like when you grab their leg they're like, "Okay, cool. Pull me into the knee slice, brother. I'm fine with that." So, I think there's like a mismatch when you're like a white belt and a blue belt and you grab onto someone and you try to like mentally mess with them and you like I'm gonna pull him so that he pulls back, right? That's the thing that everyone does. Everyone does this even in the gi because we're stupid. Where we're like, I'm gonna pretend like I'm trying to pull him onto me because what I actually want is for him to pull away. But like what happens when you go against someone who's really good and you pull them and they're like, okay, right? You're fucked. You have to give it up, right? So now again, cross leg, trying to enter the legs. Matheuz just diving over the top. There's a beautiful shin wedge bolo right here, right? And already collecting the second leg. You guys, I'm not gonna break down the wedge. You guys should know what that is. There's plenty of videos of people explaining it. Lachlan actually does it best, I think, in submeta. I think he explains the actual leg position of where you want the wedge and which way your hips face so that you can actually manipulate their weight in the way that you want. Right? And then here, really good example of like actual control of the hips and the shoulders, right? There is a hook, like his left leg is basically a bar across the entire hips, so the hips are secured inside. The person inside wants to spin, right? That's how you escape. You get your back to the match, you get to close guard, and you fight out of there. It's better than having your back taken. Anything is better than having your back taken. But there's also this. There's a closed loop here, right? With Matheus's arms around this top armpit, and that's acting as a hook to prevent him from turning out, right? Hugging up into that armpit, pulling it towards yourself, It stops their rotation, which is what you want. I think so many people will play straight jacket and they'll think it's like, oh, I grab the wrists and that's what stops the guy. You don't want to do that. What you want is the exact same thing that you have inside passes. It's not weight, it's wedges. You want wedges and hooks to prevent rotation. And that's what's happening right here, right? This arm is stopping him from turning and going belly down. I mean, in conjunction with his legs, right? And then this is like actual straitjacket, right? He defends the arm, and then in doing so, he doesn't defend the other arm, and it gets rear naked choked. And it's rough to have a camera in your face. But, you know, this is not a knock on any of these guys. Everyone, possibly 90% of this room, is going to tap me. I'm not good. So don't think that I'm like talking shit. I'm just saying what I think is optimal in terms of like body positioning. And yeah, seated guard, tough. I think it's so hard to play seated guard. You have to just like have a dog in you to like wrestle up. So here, right, there's already a frame on here. I don't think you should fuck with their head. I think you should grab their arms, right? Because what you don't want is for them to do what's going to happen is going to pull his leg up, right? Force you into like a kind of supine position. I think you focus on the arms and the elbows, make a 2-on-1 connection, and then work your way to like wrestle, right? You already have good positioning here with this leg tucked underneath. You're ready for a tactical stand up, right? But like this is awkward, right? You hold anyone's heel, it's very hard for them to wrestle. And then scooping, and then I think he's not intending to wrestle up, right? I think the intent here is to enter into a false read, which, you know, Matheuz is gonna, okay, I have an underhook, right? I have an underhook. I'm gonna blast my knee slice through, and then, you know, gets so far up that it's hard to retain guard. Scoop, and there it is, right? And like, no, at this point, right? This is how you pass someone with flexibility, right? You make their chest face away because there's no amount of flexibility that's going to allow this person to reinsert this as a frame. It like their leg has to phase through their own body in order to get into here, right? Like this space is inaccessible, like mechanically from anybody's body to like move their foot all the way through. They have to like return their back to the mat, face you, and then insert the hook. Yeah, you just bunker down. Um, yeah, hope you guys like this content. If you do, buy me a coffee, link in the bio. I also posted the main sources of inspiration for my pretty okay jujitsu. So feel free to support them. It's important that we all come together as a community. And I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm tired, guys.